further up. No, it doesn't. Never mind. Let's talk about these guys. The cowled people. Medrith. An elf idles by the road, watching the village across the river. He nods as you approach, and the cowled figure standing near him falls silent.
Gods keep you.
Greetings. A look of horror slowly forms on his face. Blazes, you've just come from the village, have you? How bad was it? How bad was what? Haven't you heard? There's a murderer on the loose, said to have gone mad with grief and strangled a dozen LT children when her own was hollowborn. He nods at the figures with him. We've come all the way from Defiance Bay to bring her to justice. She's here? He nods across the river. She's hiding out in the village. We'd go in after her ourselves, but the problem is she knows our faces. There's no telling what she'd do if she saw us coming, and we'd like to avoid any further unnecessary bloodshed. He leans closer. Her name's Nifra. She's an Orlan. We want to get her out of town so that we can deal with her cleanly. She knows we're looking for her, but if someone were to convince her that it's safe to leave... If she's a mass murderer, why didn't the Duke send the Crucible Knights after her? A look of distaste flickers across his face. It's quick, but you catch it. The powers that be want to keep things quiet for obvious reasons. Better not to cause a fuss, and certainly better not to startle her into doing something drastic. I'm not so sure about this. He lays a strong hand on your shoulder. A mad woman like that is everybody's problem, friend. Just keep an eye out. If you come across her, remember what I told you. I promise I'll make it worth your while. I have a few questions. What is it? Remind me what we were looking for exactly. An Orlan woman named Nifra. I don't know exactly where in the village she is, but there aren't too many Orlans around here.
Well met, friend.
What did Nifra do exactly? She was responsible for the murder of all those babies in Defiance Bay, remember? Terrible thing, but we'll make her pay. Alright. Okay. You guys are lying. You guys are absolutely lying. There's something else going on here, and I intend to figure out why. Or what. Golden celery. What's up north? Nothing. Some more River Reed, I'm assuming? Yep. Yep. Let's go in there. Curious. Selby and Arbinger Beodmar. Talk to Beodmar. No one trusts me with anything more than lighting candles.
Out with you! I already told you what... I'm sorry. I thought you were one of those ruffians.
The old man turns as you enter. His face is covered in bruises, and his lower lip is swollen. He stops and peers at you, squinting through a black eye. Someone has put this priest to the test, but one not nearly difficult enough by my measure. An amateur's work.
How may I help you?
He gives you something between a smile and a wince. What happened to you?
I never saw their faces. Strange hooded men asking about those ruins. Cleoban Relag. Most of the brigands who come through here asking about the ruins are looking for a few ancient trinkets. But these people knew the name, and they were in a hurry.
He hobbles over to the filmy window. He peers through the dirty glass.
They wanted to know where Cleobon Relog was. I tried to keep it from them, but I couldn't hold out forever. I don't know what they were up to, but it can't be good.
He carefully probes a patch of blue skin around his cheekbone. He limps away from the window, shaking his head. Aloth looks at you, frowning. Does that sound like the leaden key? That does sound like the leaden key, doesn't it? Yes, it does. The old priest nods politely. Is there something else I can help you with? Can you tell me where to find the ruins?
The Glonfathan tribe that guards the ruins will kill anyone who trespasses there. And they'll retaliate against us too, if history is any indication. We've had too many fortune seekers stir up trouble of late. If I'm to tell you, I'll need to know your reason for wanting to go.
The old priest tugs on his beard and frowns. He folds his arm and stares at you with one eye and a scowl. That's Heravius. So this is where I say, go into the ruins and I'll kill you. And that's when you say, Heravius, I'm a watcher and you're no match for all of us and we've got a good reason for this. And then I give up trying to argue with you and leave you to dig your own trespasser's grave. And I'm only being half metaphoric. We sometimes make dear woodens dig your own grave before we kill you. When the kids hear about it, it's a fabulous deterrent. Okay, a dangerous plot is unfolding there. I've got to stop it.
If that's the case, then we may already have trouble headed our way. I'll have to take you at your word. You'll find Cleobon Relog here. Whatever trouble you find there, please end it quietly and try to stay out of the ruins.
A weary sigh wheezes out of his throat. He pulls out a faded map and points to a spot in the wood. Tell me about Durford. Folk here tend to keep to themselves, as they do in most towns this deep in the Durwood. They're suspicious of travelers, but with all the brigands and refugees moving through the area, we can't blame them. This is a temple of Barath. What can you tell me about Barath? Barath is the most universal of all the gods. It oversees portals and cycles of all kinds, even life and death itself. Under Barath, an ending is merely a passage to another beginning. Barath has many representations across time and across cultures. Around the Dyrwood, you'll commonly see it depicted as the Padded Knight or the Usher. The Glenfathans, however, know it as Bunen. Bunen I Enku and Enku I Bunen. Tell me about the Padded Knight. She's one of the youngest manifestations of Barath, but a familiar one nonetheless. Stories describe her as a gaunt knight in black armor with black eyes, black hair, and milk-pale skins. She demands an impossible toll from travelers who have tarried too long on her lord's road. Some challenge her only to slay themselves in the process. Who is the Usher? A black singer. A black pop singer. That's all he says. Kit have written stories, songs, and poems about the Usher for centuries now. Sometimes he's folk, sometimes dwarf, and sometimes merely a walking skeleton. He never speaks, but he guides the way to death in the next life. He also creates the circumstances for the wayward to stumble into their own grave. See, I told you. That's the singer. I've never heard of Bunen I Enku and Enku I Bunen. Bunen. Bunen? Whatever. It means life and death and life, respectively. You see them as two skeletal figures, one male and one female. Explorers have found them carved opposite one another in doorways, but I know of no particular legends that speak of them. Hey, Enrage, what's up, man? How you doing, dude? I hope you're feeling better. I certainly hope you're feeling better than yesterday. Thanks for the information. Of course, Barath was once more widely worshipped in this area, but it is a silent god. He smiles sadly. These days, people find themselves in need of clearer answers. Speaking of God, we need to... we're going to read another one. Because we read one god per day so far. So just a quick recap, guys, for those of you that weren't there. Abaddon, god of golems. Barath, god of death. Eothas, god of rebirth. Galawain, god of the hunt. Aelia, goddess of the sky and maternity. Magrin, goddess of war and fire, purification. And now we're going to read Undra. Your mouse died today? You mean like your computer mouse? Or you mean like your real mouse, like a pet? Goddess of oceans, forgotten things, loss, relentlessness, and mourning. Said to have once fallen in love with the moon and to have tried to draw it near with catastrophic consequences. People bring tokens to her temple of things they wish to forget, and her clergy sees the token cast into the sea. Interesting. Pretty darn cool. Was starting to double click randomly on me, and now the left click is stuck down. So, mouse as in pet, then.
Hey there.
Cool. Cool, I'm glad we cleared that one up. I had to order a new one, but it won't be here until Monday. Cool. Well, I mean, still, you know, it sucks, but at the same time, you're gonna get a new mouse, man. That's always good. New computer, anything is good.
And what does the flame?
Hey, Embers, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the stream, by the way. I really do appreciate it. You guys have been fantastic. Love your faces. So much. So much. What is this place? The mill slowly grinds away at a trough of grain. Okay, so this is a mill.
What do we have here?
I'm going to steal your grain. And your mushrooms. And more of your grain. There's just 2 random villagers. Okay, interesting. I was expecting more, but interesting. Just suck, I have nothing to use until it gets here, so might have to cancel Monday too. Oh, gotcha.
How is it you Eothasian stay so optimistic? The world has not given your kind much reason to hope.
You get to a certain point and you realize you got 2 options. You can go mad with grief and tear out all your hair and check yourself into the sanitarium, or you can wait for better days.
Well, feathers in my case. But I understand your point.
Rumbald. Damn Galawain for monsters like that, and damn the rest of the gods too. A man paces angrily in front of a wrecked animal pen, his sun-weathered face twisted with ire. He's so wrapped up in his fury that he doesn't seem to notice you. Galawain's slobbering beasts, blazing bloody effigy, thrice damned salty wench, and her soggy... What's wrong? The monster stole my pigs! Traipsed into the village, tore down my pen, and made off with the whole damned herd. Just left a few little runs, and what am I supposed to do with them? What are you talking about? An ogre moved into the area not long ago. Folk had been seeing glimpses and tracks out in the woods, but it seemed to be staying away from town, or so we all thought until it made off with my pigs. Now everyone's afraid it's going to develop a taste for kith, if it hasn't already. What do you mean to do now? Enrage, thank you so much to the host. Do appreciate it, man. And dude, would you give a caster command for Enrage, please? Or Emberoos? I would really appreciate it. And by the way, guys, Enrage is a really good friend of mine. Really chill dude, very cool streamer. He plays a variety of games too. Right now he's been dabbling into ESO, and he's just recently finished his playthroughs of both Tomb Raider's games to prepare himself for the 3rd one. So yeah, give him some love, man. Like he's just starting out as a streamer. He deserves the love. Give him a little bit of love. Just share the love, like you know, throw love all over him. Like all across his face, like everywhere. Like just dripping of loves. All of that stuff. I know it's too late to get my picks back, but I'd set my mind at ease to see that things had shorn from its neck. In fact, you bring its ugly pate to me, and I'll trade you for something that's of less use to a farmer like me than to a rowdy-looking sort like yourself. What do you know about the ogre? It's the same as any other, I'm sure. A big, ugly son of a bitch with a nasty temper of an appetite to match. Trigil could tell you more. He claims to have seen it in the woods. But you can find him in his shop right by the broken tower. Need something else. I've been sent to find an Orlan named Nifre. Know where she is. Never even heard of her. Man, there's an ogre.
Eyes open.
Wow, that's gonna be interesting. Oh, look at that small piggy! Aww, it's so small. Aww, it's a baby pig. Dude, that pig is the same size as my cat, my undead cat. The Dracogen Inn. Heather, stop stealing, man. You just... Look at that reputation drop. Like... Guys, it's not my fault. Heather just can't stop stealing. He can't stop himself. He's trying, but he can't. He's just walking around and like everybody needs to stop every like few feet because he's looking into a container and he just grabs everything he finds. It's annoying. This table has been scarred and stained from decades of use. The portrait depicts a man and a woman dressed in Aedir garb that would have been in style a century ago. The heavy frame has been battered and the plate that once bore the patron's name has been scratched out. They share a passionate embrace which seems at odds with the disgust on their faces. He's klepto. Yeah. Sid. A redhead stands by the fire, tuning her lute and plucking its strings. She hums snatches of a melody as she goes. First time in the Dracogen. Normally I'd have a song ready, but I haven't quite worked out this tune yet. I'm writing some chants about the founding of this inn. Say, you interested in the story? I haven't finished the chants, but I could tell you about it all the same. Sure. Pelagina rolls her golden eyes and exhales from an excessively long time through her nose. Like... It was built in the time of Adrit's rebellion. An Aediran lady, Thainu, once had a keep here, and one of the towers still stand, but the rest is said to be buried under the village. Anyway, she stuck to the side of the Empire, and a contingent of Duke Adrit's Knights of the Crucible helped the farmers and colonists in the area turn her keep to rubble. This inn was the first building that sprang up from the ruin, built with some of the same bricks the colonists had pulled from the lady's Thainu's castle, they say. Supposedly, the quarterstaff of her chief wizard even got lost in the construction, mortared into a wall or nailed under a floor board. Anyway, the inn was supposed to be a haven and a meeting place while the locals built their new town. What do you mean supposed to be? Derwoodens are an ornery lot, and the more these new neighbors met, the more they argued. They realized they didn't agree on much beside ousting the old lord. The biggest divide was over the Glenfaddens and their nearby ruins. Adrit's Knights and their supporters wanted to keep the peace, but a group of misfits with more anarchic leanings that had formed in town wanted to go after the tribes the same way they'd gone after their lord. Soon the villagers were fighting with each other as much as with the Aedirans. In the end, memories of the Broken Stone War and the War of Black Trees were fresh enough that the Duke's soldiers won the day. Most of the other villagers came around eventually, but some of the core troublemakers left to join the front lines of the War of Defiance. And others, I've heard, found their way into the Guided Compass, the most forward-looking of the Glenfadden's tribe. I don't know if I believe that part myself, but it makes a good story. Yeah, lost under the floor. Yeah. And Corey, what's up, brother? How you doing? It's been a little while, man. Super happy to see you. She points to the east wall. There's a portrait of one of the chief rabble-rousers in his rival in the peacekeeping faction. Someone's idea of a joke. I don't think they were particularly amused. I want to hear about the Broken Stone War. I guess these were the two people in a loving embrace. That was the first major conflict between the original Aedaran settlers and the Glenfathans. Happened 3 years into colonization when some farmers knocked over an Adram menhir that was part of an Engwithan ruin. The war didn't last long, but it spread quickly and claimed thousands. In the early weeks, most of the colonists didn't even realize there was a war going on until the Glenfathans raiders hit their village. There had been small, spontaneous skirmishes between the colonists and the locals before then, but this was organized, and it was the start of decades of violence between the colonists and the Glenfathans. I'm doing great, Corey. I'm doing fantastic. As you can see, Durwood's full of history, even in a little village like this. Tell me about the War of Black Trees. It started back in the colonial days, almost 30 years after the Broken Stone War. Even though isolated conflicts still broke out between the settlers and Glenfathans, both sides had officially agreed to peace. Edrang Hadrit, Admet's father, was Griff at the time. As part of peace negotiations, he'd signed treaties prohibiting Aedaran's colonists from looting Engwithan ruins. However, he'd been unable to outlaw the use of captured Glenfathans as slaves. What's a Graif? A Graif is the governor of a colony and is subservient to the Aedaran emperor. The early leaders of the Aedar colony in the Durwood, including Edrang and Admet Adred, were Graifs. At the start of the War of Defiance, Admet Adred declared himself Duke of an independent Durwood rather than Graif of the Emperor's colony. It was the same term used for leaders of the newly independent Valian republics. Anyway, we haven't heard a Graif since. I see. I haven't had. Indeed, the taking of Glenfathan slaves had continued to be a source of conflict. It came to a head when Imperial agents aided by certain earls in the Durwood began looting the ruins again. See, the Empire had never actually agreed to Adred's treaties on the matter, and the recent secession of the Valian Republic likely left them eager to weaken Adred's position. The looting sparked a brutal slave uprising in the guerrilla campaign among the Glenfathans. Edrang Hadrit was too old to lead forces into battles, and so he sent his son Admet. Admet made a costly but effective decision that ended the war faster than anyone could have imagined. He burned the forest near the Ishyen River to keep the Glenfathan war bands from retreating. Thousands of Glenfathans died, and as Admet repeated his scorched earth tactics in the following months, he wore down the reminders of their forces. To this day, over 150 years later, there are still sections of the Durwood where trees are nothing but bare, charred trunks. So, I love this idea of like under the floor. Like it's probably somewhere in here. I'm sure I can find it.
That. We're decent folk, my lord. Perhaps you should leave and check the wilds.
I don't know what that was, but Eorn! Why, it's you! Thank you, friend. You've given me another chance, and I mean to make the most of it. I've been telling everyone around here about how you helped me. Hey! That's our friend!
Yeah?
We like Eorn.
I shall be discreet.
Good day to you.
We met him in the catacombs. The innkeeper digs inside a mug with a dirty rag. His eyes under his thick brows are tired but watchful. He gives you a quick nod as you approach the bar. Don't see many travelers these days. Something I can do for you. What was your exchange with the nobleman about? He looks up from polishing his tankards and glowers at the Lord. Folks around here is decent. They mind their own business. You want to stick your nose in it, go talk to him yourself. I have questions about Durford. He runs his rag around the rim of the mug. Ask, have you seen an Orlan called Nifre? He jerks his head at the stairs. Twitchy lady, that one. Okay. Tell me about the village. Walk from one bridge to the next and you've seen it. We're quiet, hard-working folk. We keep to ourselves and don't take to being pushed around. He glares at the well-dressed man standing off to the side. Used to be a castle here, built by some family of Aedaran Thanes back when the Empire first came. Only one tower still standing, and that's part of Trigil's stop now. Sid, that bard by the fire, could spin you the yarn if you're so inclined. No, it's fine. We've got it already. Who lives in Durford? Not many anymore. Hard to keep people around when everyone's here is birthing Oloborn. But we've got a few who stick around and do business. Trigel's the letter courier, and Dina's crafts potion, and Winfrith trades in general goods. Rumbald's a pig farmer, or was anyway. Tell me about Trigel. He's a courier, treats a letter, and makes armor and a few other goods with it. Problem is, the smell of tallow and deer shit tends to put people off their food, and his shop's right next door. Ah! Yeah, that mustn't help for business. What's ending his story? Lady's a clever hand with potions and poultices. Got herself into trouble with a nest of worms, or so I hear. Her cart's on the east end of town. Okay, and Winfrith? Been around even longer than I have. Nice enough fellow, but never could find his way to the end of a sentence. His shop's across the square. Something happened to Rumbald's pig, I take it. Damn ogre carried them off. Now he squeals more than his herd ever did. He shrugs. It is rotten luck. It is. Let's go back to my previous questions about Durford. You said you don't see many travelers. Of course not. Why would they come here? We've got bandits on the road and an ogre in the forest. As that yapping fool Rumbald will tell you. Worse yet, hasn't been a healthy child born here in over a year. Most kith that come here is just passing through. How about that ogre? You don't hardly see him this close to town. Ogres and kith don't mix well. Ugly bastards, but they're smart enough to know that much. You want to know more, talk to Rumbald. His farm's southwest of here. I want to know. Yeah. See what she has. We'll take one of these. Thank you very much. And,
Margaret's fire casts light in dark places.
Paces. What are you doing in the kitchen? Danglers will get you sorted out with food and drink. Heavy sweet perfumes emanate from the barrels. The stave joints are stained dark brown and dull purple. Oh, Eder, damn it. Stop stealing stuff, man. Jesus. He can't stop himself. Every downtime. Lord Aaron. The man wears Adir-style robes, simple but elegant. His fine leather shoes look like they were made for padding around indoors, yet they're caked with mud. He yanks at a lock of her hair twined around his silk-gloved finger. His fine features are etched with anxiety.
My child is out there. Do they not understand?
My lord, we're doing everything we can. Unfortunately, these villagers...
Beasts take them all. I don't care how you do it, but find her.
He jerks a few strands from his head. He sounds like Matt Mercer too. Your child is missing, I take it.
Yes, Lady Alice. My daughter.
He tugs at the fingertips of his glove. Okay, now he doesn't sound like him at all.
I've asked around, but nobody in this mud hole has any concerns beyond their swine. He turned my men away like beggars and seemed downright pleased to be of no use. But you're not one of my soldiers. And you look like you're used to getting your hands dirty, if you don't mind my saying so.
And now he sounds like him again. Hiroshino's wallet? Oh god. His guard lean in. My lord, a simple vagabond. Aaron raises a hand to silence the man. If you find her, he nibbles the thumb of one silk glove. Tell her I won't be upset with her. She can come back and all will be well. If I just want to make sure my Alice, my child, is safe. Nothing in the world is more important to me. I'd like to ask you a few more questions about your daughter.
Alice. Of course.
He blinks at you and licks his lips. Describe Lady Alice. Or Alice. She's a striking young woman, bears more resemblance to her mother than to me. She has auburn hair and delicate, well-bred features. She must be, 28 or 29 now. Tell me about her disappearance. We'd stop in Durford for a few days. On our 4th evening here, I was making plans to continue our journey. Lady Elise was feeling unwell and went to bed. When I retired a couple hours later, I found that she had vanished. None of my men had seen her go, and no one at the inn knew where she was. Since then, my people have been combing the village, but we've yet to find a clue, and the locals have been no help. Why did you and Elise come to Durford? It was merely a stop along the way to Aina's Rest. However, she took Hill shortly before our arrival, so it seemed prudent to allow her a few days to recover. What's in Aina's Rest? He frowns as if about to protest, but he gives in with a sigh. Lady Elise has reached an age where it is prudent for her to marry. Given this legacy business, I can't let her fertile years